Good morning, y'all. I want to start with a hard truth, one that we know deep down, but don't always have the courage to admit. The hardest, bravest thing you will ever do is be yourself. Now, I know we hear this all the time. Be yourself. Stay true to who you are. Sounds easy, right? But let me ask you something. How many times have you swallowed your truth to fit in? How often do you dim your light so you don't outshine others? How much of your time, energy, and heart is spent hustling for approval instead of standing in your worth? Yeah, me too. Being true to yourself is not about being liked. It's not about making everyone comfortable. It's about standing in your truth, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it scares the hell out of you. And let me tell you, it will scare the hell out of you because we live in a world that rewards fitting in over standing out. We're taught to be small, quiet, agreeable. But here's what I know for sure. Belonging is not the same as fitting in. Fitting in means twisting and contorting yourself to be accepted. Belonging means showing up as you are, no edits, no filters, no permission slips, and knowing that you are enough. Being true to yourself means embracing imperfection. It means owning your story, the beautiful, the messy, the complicated, the real. It means recognizing that vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is courage. And listen, this is where most of us get stuck. Because being true to yourself means risking rejection. It means standing in front of the world and saying, this is me. No mask, no armor, no pretending. But here's the secret. The people who truly love you, they don't love you for who you pretend to be. They love you for who you are. So my challenge to you today is this. Stop betraying yourself for acceptance. Take up space, speak your truth, let yourself be seen. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful thing you can be is you. Being yourself is the hardest, bravest thing you'll ever do. That's not a catchphrase or some motivational poster slogan, it's the truth. We live in a world that constantly tells us who we should be, how we should act, what we should look like, and even what we should want. From the time we are little, we learn the rules of belonging. Don't be too loud. Don't be too opinionated. Don't take up too much space. And for the love of all things holy, don't be too different. Fit in, blend, adapt. Do what it takes to be accepted. And we do. We learn early how to read a room, how to shrink, how to smooth out our rough edges so we don't make people uncomfortable. But here's the thing. When you spend your life trying to be what others want, you wake up one day and realize you don't even know who you are anymore. The fear of standing out is real and it's wired into us. Our brains are designed for connection, for belonging, for safety in numbers. And once upon a time, when we were living in tribes and survival depended on being part of the group, standing out meant danger, exile, rejection. That fear, it's still in us today. Except now, exile doesn't mean getting left behind in the wilderness. It means being judged. It means disapproval. It means walking into a room and feeling the weight of people's expectations pressing against your skin. And we don't like that feeling, so we conform. We mold ourselves into what we think people want. We perform. We armor up. And we tell ourselves that if we can just be who they need us to be, we'll be safe, we'll be loved, we'll belong. But here's the hard truth. If you have to become someone else to be accepted, you're not actually being accepted. You're being tolerated. There is a difference. When we trade authenticity for approval, we are building connections on a lie. We're handing people a version of ourselves that isn't real. And then we wonder why we still feel unseen, unknown, and disconnected. Real connection, the kind that fills us up, that gives us a sense of meaning and purpose, only happens when we have the courage to show up as we really are. No mask, no performance, no bending ourselves into something more palatable. Being true to yourself is terrifying because it requires you to stand in your truth without guarantees. It means stepping out into the world as you are, with the full knowledge that some people will not like you. They will reject you, they will misunderstand you, they will wish you were different. And that stings. There's no way around it. But let's flip that for a second, because when you show up as yourself, it also means that the people who do love you, who do accept you, who see you and embrace you without condition, those people are loving you, not a curated, adjusted, filtered version. You. And that kind of love, that kind of belonging, that's worth everything. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that being accepted is more important than being true. But let me ask you something. What's the cost of that acceptance? What part of yourself do you have to betray in order to fit in? Because here's what I know. There is nothing lonelier than being surrounded by people who have no idea who you really are. When you live a life that is built on other people's expectations, you might feel secure, but you will never feel free. And you deserve to be free. You deserve to wake up every morning knowing that you don't have to put on a mask before you walk out the door. You deserve relationships where you don't have to wonder, would they still love me if they knew the real me? You deserve a life that feels like yours, not one that was handed to you, prescribed for you, or demanded of you. So here's the challenge. Stop outsourcing your self-worth. Stop making yourself small so other people are comfortable. Stop apologizing for who you are. The hardest thing you will ever do is stand in your own truth, own your story, and refuse to trade your authenticity for acceptance. But I promise you this, when you do, you will breathe deeper, you will walk lighter, you will finally understand what it means to belong to yourself. And that's everything. We don't wake up one day and decide to trade authenticity for approval. It happens slowly, quietly, in moments so small we barely notice. It starts when we learn that certain parts of us are more acceptable than others. Maybe it's the way we express emotion. Someone tells us we're too sensitive or too much, so we start holding back. Maybe it's our creativity, our boldness, our ambition. Something about us makes people uncomfortable, so we shrink. We laugh at jokes that aren't funny. We nod along when we disagree. We shape shift, adjust, and filter ourselves so we don't make waves. And in the beginning, it feels like survival. It feels like the necessary cost of belonging. But the longer we do it, the more we start to lose ourselves. One day, we wake up and realize we've spent so much time becoming what people want that we have no idea what we want. Approval is addictive. It feels good to be liked. It feels safe to be accepted. And before we know it, we start chasing it like oxygen, convincing ourselves that we need it to be okay. Every decision, every word, every part of how we show up in the world becomes about them. What will they think? Will they judge me? Will I still belong? And that kind of approval seeking is exhausting because it puts our self-worth in someone else's hands. It makes our value something that can be given or taken away. It turns our identity into a performance, and suddenly we're living for applause instead of truth. And here's the hardest part. We can get really good at it. We can convince the world that we have it all together, that we are the perfect friend, the perfect partner, the perfect employee. But deep down, we know we know we are sacrificing something essential. We know we are hiding. And no matter how much approval we collect, it never feels like enough. The problem with chasing approval is that it's a moving target. You can do everything right and still someone won't like you. Someone will still criticize, still judge, still find something about you that doesn't sit well with them. And when that happens, the instinct is to hustle harder, to edit ourselves just a little more, to smooth out another edge, to try again, but at what cost? How much of ourselves are we willing to sacrifice to keep other people happy? The reality is, if we build our identity on the need to be liked, we will spend our entire lives performing. And performance is not the same as living. It's not the same as belonging, because belonging isn't something we earn. It's something we claim. It's what happens when we decide, I am enough as I am, whether people approve of me or not. One of the biggest lies we believe is that fitting in will bring us peace. That if we can just adjust enough, say the right things, wear the right mask, we'll finally feel at home. But there is nothing lonelier than being in a room full of people who like the version of you that you created for them. That's not belonging. That's performance. And the worst part, when you live this way long enough, you don't just lose connection with others, you lose connection with yourself. You've become so good at being who you think you're supposed to be that you forget who you are. And there is no approval, no validation, no applause in the world that can replace the feeling of being fully, truly at home in your own skin. We trade authenticity for approval because we think it will make life easier, but in reality, it makes life smaller. It keeps us in a box. It teaches us to tiptoe instead of stand tall. And over time, it steals something from us, our voice, our confidence, our sense of self. When we live for approval, we start making choices that aren't actually ours. We choose careers based on what looks good, not what feels right. We stay in relationships that feel safe, not ones that feel alive. We say yes when we mean no. We stay quiet when we want to speak. We follow paths that don't belong to us. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, why we feel unseen, why we feel exhausted. The truth is, no amount of approval will ever be enough if we have to betray ourselves to get it. We will never feel truly loved if the love we receive is for a version of us that isn't real. And we will never find peace if we are constantly at war with ourselves, choosing acceptance over authenticity, choosing comfort over truth, choosing approval over who we are meant to be. Fitting in is often mistaken for belonging, but the two are not the same. Fitting in means we are adjusting, altering ourselves, and contorting who we are in order to blend in. It's about meeting other people's expectations, wearing the right mask, saying the right things, doing the right things so that we are accepted. It's a performance, a game of mimicry, where the goal is to blend in and avoid standing out in ways that might make others uncomfortable. We learn from a young age how to fit in, whether it's dressing a certain way, acting a certain way, or agreeing with a dominant opinion. Fitting in has been sold to us as a way to survive in the world. If we can just conform, we think everything will be fine. We'll be loved, liked, and accepted. But the problem with fitting in is that it's not real. It's an illusion. It's a facade. When we fit in, we are pretending to be something we're not. We sacrifice authenticity and individuality to keep the peace and to feel like we are part of the group. And when we lose sight of who we truly are in the process, we feel hollow inside. It might seem like we're part of the crowd, but we're actually on the outside looking in. There's always that quiet, nagging voice in the back of our minds reminding us that we're not really being seen. We've buried the truth of who we are so deep beneath the surface that we start to lose ourselves. The more we try to fit in, the less we feel like we belong. Belonging, on the other hand, is something entirely different. It's not about fitting into a mold. It's about finding a place where you can show up as your authentic self, no edits, no apologies, and still be accepted and loved. Belonging means you're seen for who you truly are, flaws and all. It's not about performing or pretending. It's about embracing who you are, exactly as you are, and knowing that your uniqueness is what makes you valuable. The relationships we form in places of true belonging are founded on honesty, vulnerability, and authenticity. In these relationships, we're allowed to be messy, imperfect, and real. We're not required to put on a show, hide our flaws, or shrink ourselves. We simply show up, and we are loved for being ourselves. The difference between fitting in and belonging is the difference between feeling like an outsider and feeling at home. It's a matter of self-worth. When we're fitting in, we are constantly measuring ourselves against other people's standards. We are constantly wondering if we measure up, if we're enough. We adjust ourselves to meet those expectations, but it never feels like we're good enough. Because we aren't being ourselves. We're being a version of ourselves that we think others will accept, and no amount of fitting in will ever make us feel truly seen or truly loved. It's exhausting, and it leaves us emotionally drained. But when we belong, we don't need to adjust. We don't need to perform. We just show up, and that's enough. We are accepted for who we are, and we finally feel at ease in our own skin. Fitting in requires us to hide parts of ourselves, our quirks, our passions, our dreams. It forces us to be something we're not in exchange for approval. And that creates a gap between who we really are and the version of ourselves we present to the world. This gap creates tension. It creates self-doubt. We're always wondering if people like the real us or the performed version we show them. And that tension is exhausting. We can't keep pretending forever. We can't keep living a life where we're constantly adjusting to fit someone else's idea of who we should be. It takes a toll on our mental and emotional health, and over time, it erodes our confidence. When we make the shift from fitting in to belonging, we free ourselves from the need to perform. We stop worrying about what people think of us because we've already accepted ourselves. The people we connect with in places of belonging will love us for our flaws, our imperfections, and our authenticity. They will embrace us because of our unique qualities, not in spite of them. We can speak our truth without fear of rejection. We can express ourselves fully without fear of judgment. And this sense of belonging is not conditional. It's not something we have to earn by adjusting ourselves to meet someone else's standards. It's something we claim by showing up as our true selves and finding others who accept us for exactly who we are. In these relationships, we are not just accepted, we are celebrated. Fitting in keeps us small. It keeps us afraid to stand out. But belonging invites us to step into our full power, to take up space, to be unapologetically ourselves. It invites us to build real, authentic connections based on mutual respect and understanding. It asks us to let go of the fear of rejection and embrace the power of vulnerability. Because when we truly belong, we're free. Free from the need to perform. Free from the constant pressure to fit in. Free to be who we were always meant to be. And that freedom, it's life-changing. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. It is not a weakness, as many believe. Vulnerability is actually one of the greatest acts of courage. In a world that constantly demands perfection, control, and resilience, showing up as your true self, imperfections, scars, and all, takes immense bravery. Vulnerability means exposing parts of ourselves that we've been taught to hide. It's allowing ourselves to be seen in all our messiness and humanity without the facade of perfection. It's letting go of the armor we wear and allowing others to see our raw, unfiltered truth. And while it feels risky, it's the only way we can form real, meaningful connections with others. Because vulnerability is the bridge between isolation and connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we also allow ourselves to experience real emotions. Joy, sadness, fear, love, and hope. Many of us are conditioned to suppress these emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones. We're taught that vulnerability equals weakness and that showing our feelings is something to be ashamed of. But in reality, it is our vulnerability that makes us human. It's what enables us to feel deeply, to empathize with others, and to connect on a level that goes beyond surface-level interactions. Without vulnerability, relationships become shallow and transactional rather than deeply meaningful. And while being vulnerable opens the door to potential rejection or criticism, it also opens the door to deeper intimacy and understanding. Vulnerability is what allows us to break down walls and connect with others on a soul level. The fear of vulnerability often stems from the fear of being judged or rejected. We've all experienced moments when we put ourselves out there only to feel exposed, dismissed, or even ridiculed. It's easy to retreat into ourselves, to put up walls and protect our hearts from further harm. But living in fear of vulnerability means living in a constant state of self-protection. And when we do that, we close ourselves off to the people and experiences that truly matter. Vulnerability isn't about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to show up despite the fear. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same. We create spaces where true connection can blossom, where we can share our stories and feel seen and heard. Vulnerability is also an essential component of creativity and innovation. Think about the times when you've created something, whether it's a piece of art, a project at work, or a new idea, and put it out into the world. That act of sharing something so personal can feel terrifying. You're exposing yourself to the possibility of failure, criticism, or judgment. But creativity thrives in vulnerability. It's when we are willing to take risks, to step outside of our comfort zone, and to show up as our authentic selves that we produce our best work. Vulnerability gives us the courage to experiment, to try new things, and to push boundaries. It allows us to embrace imperfection and to learn from our mistakes. And it's in that process of vulnerability that we grow, not only as creators, but as human beings. Another misconception about vulnerability is that it's a one-time event. We think that once we've been vulnerable, once we've opened ourselves up, we've done our part. But vulnerability is not a one-off. It's an ongoing practice. It's about continually choosing to show up even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about embracing the uncertainty, the fear, and the potential for disappointment and still moving forward anyway. Vulnerability is not something we do just once, but something we practice every day. It's in the small moments, saying what's on our heart, taking a chance on a new relationship, expressing our truth in a difficult conversation, that vulnerability becomes a part of who we are. And when we make vulnerability a practice, it becomes easier over time, and we become more resilient in the face of challenges. The beauty of vulnerability is that it creates the space for us to grow into our most authentic selves. When we stop hiding and start allowing ourselves to be seen, we unlock parts of ourselves that we never knew existed. Vulnerability allows us to embrace our imperfections, to show up with our full humanity, and to let go of the constant need for validation. It frees us from the fear of judgment and opens the door to connection. It's through vulnerability that we find strength, not in pretending to be invincible, but in acknowledging our weaknesses, our doubts, and our fears, and choosing to move forward anyway. True courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to be vulnerable in the face of it. And in that courage, we find the power to live more fully, more openly, and more authentically. Owning your story is one of the most powerful acts of self-love and self-respect you can offer yourself. We all have a past, experiences that shaped us, decisions that defined us, and moments that challenged us. But often, we try to bury certain parts of our story, the parts we feel embarrassed by, ashamed of, or afraid of. We tuck them away, hoping that by ignoring them, they'll disappear. But they don't. They linger beneath the surface, influencing how we show up in the world, how we relate to others, and how we view ourselves. The truth is, we cannot move forward without first making peace with our past. When we refuse to own our story, we give away our power. We allow those hidden parts of ourselves to control us from the shadows. But when we choose to own our story, all of it, we reclaim our power. Owning your story means accepting every part of it, even the parts that don't look perfect. It means acknowledging the mistakes, the failures, the moments when we fell short. It's about understanding that our imperfections don't diminish our worth. They are part of what makes us human. We often think that to be loved or respected, we must present a flawless image of ourselves. But the truth is, it is our vulnerability, our imperfections, and our scars that make us real and relatable. We don't connect with people because they're perfect. We connect because they're real. The raw, unpolished parts of our stories are often the ones that resonate most deeply with others. When we stop trying to hide our flaws and start embracing them, we free ourselves from the prison of perfection. There's a freedom that comes with owning your story. It's the freedom to stop pretending to be something you're not, to stop wearing the masks that were created to protect you from judgment or rejection. When we refuse to own parts of our story, we wear those masks out of fear. We fear being judged, criticized, or misunderstood. But these masks only hold us back. They create distance between who we are and how we show up in the world. They keep us from experiencing true connection, because when we are hiding behind a mask, we are not truly seen. But when we own our story, when we embrace our full truth, we step into the light. We become visible, not in spite of our flaws, but because of them. Owning your story also means forgiving yourself for the things you can't change. Many of us carry around guilt, regret, or anger about the past, decisions we wish we could take back, things we wish we had done differently. But the truth is, we cannot change the past. We can only change how we move forward. Holding on to guilt or regret only keeps us anchored to what we can't control. It prevents us from stepping into the future with open hands and an open heart. When we own our story, we also forgive ourselves for the mistakes we've made. We allow ourselves to be human, to learn, to grow, and to move on. This forgiveness isn't about excusing the things we regret. It's about releasing the hold that those regrets have on us. There is strength in owning your story because it requires vulnerability and courage. It takes courage to admit our mistakes, to embrace our flaws, and to share our struggles with others. But it is through this act of vulnerability that we create real connection. When we own our story, we allow others to see us as we truly are, and that invites them to do the same. We create a space where others can be honest about their own stories, without fear of judgment or shame. And when we share our truth with others, we not only heal ourselves, but we help them heal as well. In owning our stories, we give others permission to own theirs. We create a ripple effect of vulnerability, honesty, and healing. Finally, owning your story means choosing to write the next chapter on your own terms. It's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your future. Your past does not define you. It is simply a part of the story that brought you to where you are today. You are not bound by the mistakes, the hurt, or the regrets of yesterday. You have the ability to choose how you show up in the world today and what you will do moving forward. Owning your story is about reclaiming your narrative. It's about taking the pen back into your hands and deciding who you want to be and what you want your life to look like. It's not about being perfect, it's about being authentic. And it's in that authenticity that we find our true power. We often think that vulnerability is something that happens by chance, that it's something we only experience in specific, isolated moments. But in reality, vulnerability is a constant choice. It's not something that just happens to us. It's something we choose to embrace day in and day out. Vulnerability is about showing up as our true selves, without the masks, without the walls, and without the armor we so often wear to protect ourselves. It's about choosing to be real, even when the world feels scary or uncertain. And that's the thing, vulnerability isn't just about the big dramatic moments of life. It's in the quiet choices we make every day. It's in saying, I love you first, even though we don't know if it will be returned. It's in showing up for someone else, even when we don't have the answers. Vulnerability is a practice, a constant decision to be seen, to be open, to be imperfect, and to choose connection over fear. What makes vulnerability so powerful is that it is inherently relational. It invites others to join us in our mess, to share in our imperfections, and to show their true selves as well. When we choose vulnerability, we create a space where other people feel safe to do the same. It's in these moments of shared vulnerability that deep, authentic connections are formed. Think about the people you feel closest to in your life, the ones with whom you have the most meaningful relationships. Chances are those relationships are built on vulnerability. You've shared your struggles, your fears, your insecurities, and they've done the same. And it's in that mutual sharing of truth that trust is built, that bonds are created, and that real connection happens. Vulnerability is the glue that holds relationships together. Without it, there can be no true intimacy, no deep connection, and no sense of belonging. But the fear of vulnerability often holds us back. We are terrified of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. So we hide. We build walls around our hearts, bury our feelings, and present the world with a polished, curated version of ourselves. We tell ourselves that if we can just be perfect, if we can just hide our flaws, then we will be safe. But the truth is, the more we hide, the lonelier we become. The more we protect ourselves, the more we push people away. Vulnerability is the antidote to this loneliness. It is the antidote to the fear that we are not enough, that we are not worthy of love or connection. When we open up, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, We invite others to see us for who we really are, and in doing so, we create space for them to do the same. The more we embrace vulnerability, the less we fear rejection, because we know that being ourselves is enough. Vulnerability also requires us to confront our fears and insecurities head on. It asks us to show up, even when we are scared, and to be seen in our imperfections. This is where true courage lies, not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to face it. Every time we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we are choosing to step into discomfort. We are choosing to let go of the need for control and perfection. We are choosing to embrace uncertainty, and in doing so, we grow. We learn to trust ourselves, to trust the process, and to trust others. Vulnerability is what allows us to expand beyond our limits, to step into new experiences, and to take risks. Without vulnerability, we remain stagnant, unable to push through our fears and unlock our true potential. It's in vulnerability that we find the courage to pursue our dreams, to take chances, and to embrace the unknown. Another aspect of vulnerability is that it is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice. It's easy to think that once we've shared something personal, once we've opened up about our struggles or fears, we're done. But vulnerability is a muscle. The more we practice it, the stronger it becomes. It's not about being vulnerable once and then never again. It's about continuously choosing vulnerability in our relationships, in our work, in our creative endeavors, and in how we show up for ourselves. Vulnerability doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be something small, like saying I'm sorry or asking for help when we need it. It can be as simple as admitting that we don't have all the answers or that we're struggling. The more we make vulnerability a regular part of our lives, the more natural it becomes. And over time, we start to see that vulnerability doesn't make us weak. It makes us resilient. Finally, vulnerability teaches us that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love and connection. In a world that constantly demands us to be flawless, vulnerability offers us the freedom to be imperfect. It allows us to embrace our mistakes, our failures, and our flaws without shame. It teaches us that it's okay to not have everything together all the time, and that we don't have to have all the answers to be worthy of love and respect. When we are vulnerable, we release the need for approval and instead find validation within ourselves. We stop seeking external perfection and start embracing our own authenticity. And in doing so, we give others permission to do the same. Vulnerability is a gift, not only to ourselves, but to the world around us. It's an invitation to stop pretending, to stop hiding, and to simply be real. And in that realness, we find the deep connection and belonging that we all crave. True authenticity is often misunderstood. We are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us to be something we're not, to fit into a mold that society has created for us. From the way we dress, to the way we speak, the way we work, and even the way we love, there are endless expectations about who we should be and how we should act. These expectations can be suffocating, leaving us to question whether we are good enough or worthy of love and respect. But true authenticity is not about meeting external standards or trying to live up to an image we think others want to see. It's about peeling away all the layers we've built over time, the personas we've put on to gain acceptance or approval, and allowing ourselves to simply be. When we stop pretending and start embracing who we are, quirks, flaws, and all, we begin to experience true freedom. We stop living for others and start living for ourselves. And it's in this space of authenticity that we begin to create deeper, more meaningful connections with others. At the core of authenticity is vulnerability. Many of us shy away from being vulnerable, believing that showing our true selves will lead to judgment or rejection. But in reality, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is a demonstration of strength. It requires courage to let down the walls we've built to protect ourselves. Being vulnerable means opening up to the world, exposing our truths, our struggles, and our emotions without fear of judgment. And when we choose to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same. Vulnerability creates a space for connection that is genuine and real. When we stop hiding parts of ourselves, when we let go of the need for perfection and embrace our humanity, we allow others to see us as we truly are. And that, in turn, creates a deeper sense of belonging. True authenticity is impossible without vulnerability, because it's only through vulnerability that we can reveal who we really are. And it's in this revealing that we begin to experience true connection with others. One of the most powerful elements of authenticity is the ability to embrace our imperfections. We live in a world that often rewards perfection. We are taught that we need to have it all together, that we need to look a certain way, act a certain way, and achieve a certain level of success to be worthy of love and admiration. But perfection is not only unattainable, it's also an illusion. The truth is, we are all imperfect. We all have flaws, insecurities, and struggles that make us human. When we try to hide these imperfections, we deny ourselves the opportunity to truly connect with others. It's through our flaws and vulnerabilities that we find the courage to be authentic. And it's in these moments of imperfection that others can relate to us. Embracing imperfection is not about giving up or resigning ourselves to mediocrity. It's about acknowledging that our flaws do not define us, and that it is precisely our imperfections that make us whole and real. Only when we embrace our imperfections can we fully step into the power of authenticity. Another key aspect of authenticity is self-acceptance. We often spend so much of our lives seeking approval from others that we forget to validate ourselves. We look to external sources, our families, our friends, our colleagues, and society at large for validation, for permission to be who we truly are. But true self-acceptance doesn't come from others. It comes from within. It is the ability to accept ourselves fully, to acknowledge both our strengths and our weaknesses, and to embrace ourselves without judgment. When we accept ourselves, we stop needing others' approval to feel worthy. We stop measuring our worth against the standards set by others and begin to live by our own. Self-acceptance means recognizing that we are enough, just as we are. And when we truly accept ourselves, we no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. We become more confident in our authenticity, and we begin to radiate that confidence in everything we do. Living authentically also requires us to let go of the fear of judgment. Many of us hide our true selves because we fear what others will think. We worry that we will be criticized, rejected, or misunderstood. But when we allow the fear of judgment to dictate how we live, we are essentially giving away our power. We are allowing others to control our narrative, to shape who we are based on their opinions, and to limit our potential. Letting go of the fear of judgment is liberating. It means that we no longer base our actions, thoughts, or behaviors on the approval of others. Instead, we begin to live in alignment with our own values and beliefs. We become more confident in our choices, knowing that we are living in true alignment with our authentic selves. The fear of judgment will always be present, but it doesn't have to control us. When we stop fearing judgment, we are free to live our lives fully without holding back. The process of living authentically is ongoing. It's not something that happens once and then is done. It's a journey, a continuous process of self-discovery, growth, and evolution. Our lives are constantly changing, and as we grow, our understanding of ourselves and our purpose evolves as well. Living authentically means being open to this evolution and allowing ourselves to change without shame. It means that we don't need to stay stuck in a version of ourselves that no longer fits. We are allowed to grow, to shift, to change, and to become the best version of ourselves, even if that means shedding old identities or letting go of old ways of thinking. True authenticity is not static. It is dynamic. It requires us to be constantly in touch with who we are, to be open to learning, and to have the courage to evolve into the person we are meant to be. And in doing so, we step into a life that is more meaningful, more fulfilling, and more in tune with our true selves. Living authentically is not always easy, but it is the most rewarding path we can take. It requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to embrace both our strengths and imperfections. But when we choose to live authentically, we experience a deeper sense of fulfillment and connection with ourselves and others. We stop hiding behind masks and begin to show up as our true selves, flawed, messy, and beautifully imperfect. In doing so, we create the space to form more meaningful relationships, to pursue our passions with courage, and to live a life that truly reflects who we are at our core. Authenticity isn't a destination, it's a journey, one that requires us to continually choose ourselves, choose vulnerability, and choose to embrace the fullness of who we are. And when we do, we unlock the power to live a life that is truly aligned with our purpose and our truth.